To be together, b'siyat d'shmaya. We're speaking now, as we mentioned before, about healing. And I think the world needs a lot of healing right now. I think there's a lot happening in the world that people are really seeking healing. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who's very deeply connected to healing, to what it means, healing. He's a healer of others. And he said there was somebody who got into an accident, Lo Aleinu, and for some reason the family, I don't know the whole story, but sort of pushed him away. He had certain challenges and brain damage, and they put him in an old folks home, even though he's very young. And he basically was sleeping about 22 hours a day. And this person started to just go to the old folks home just to visit. And he called me yesterday, he said, he's starting to get better. I said, it's after 3 years. There's a man in his early 30s. He said he's starting to spend more hours awake. First it was 22 hours sleeping, then only 20 hours, 18. He said, now I go there and he's awake most of the day. He's not speaking yet, but he's communicating with his eyes. And I said, what is his name? Because the Sfarim HaKadoshim teach us that when you say somebody's name and you whisper into their ear their name, if they're in a place where they're not yet back, the name reminds you of who you are and you sort of come back. And then I said, I think you should sit at his bedside and learn a little Likutei also. And he said, you should know he's a big Breslov person. And he has a Sipuri Maisius right beside his bed. And I said, Rabbi Nachman says that there's three things Rabbi Nachman said that I disagree with the world. One of the things that the world says is that people tell their children stories to put them to sleep. I say that we tell our children stories to wake them up. So I said to say over, just read the stories of Rabbi Nachman, read the Sipurei Maisos, just sit by his bed. And B'ezrat Hashem, the healing will continue. Looks like the healing is already moving. The world is in so much need of healing right now, of really healing. And so much of healing means coming back to oneself. Removing blockages. Which number in the Shemona Esrei is the blessing of healing? Rifa'enu. Hashem v'nei Rafa. Which one of the blessings is it? So we're taught it's number 8. Why would it be that it's the 8th blessing in the Shemona Esrei? Because what does 8 also remind you of? 8 is always teaching you something about bris milah. Because what's bris milah? It's about removing a blockage. All of healing is the removing of blocks. I'm blocked up in some way. The energy's not flowing down. The pipelines are not open. The wave has no pipe in it. I need to open up the blocks. And that creates all the healing. When the pipelines are flowing, when everything is just, you're in it. This is a book that opens up pipelines in our life, in our heart. This is a book that transforms a person and does all sorts of healing. So like we said, we've been working on this Torah of Samach Aleph for the last 5 months or so. And we're only going to have it for another month, less, a few more weeks. Now, of course, you never leave the Torah Mamish. This Torah is like medicine. It's like a balm, B-A-L-M. It's going to be soothing your neshama. It's going to be working even after you're directly involved in it. But we are going to go on to another Torah. But before that, we're going to be in this world a little bit more. We're holding on. And therefore, at the end of the Torah, you could really grab a lot. When you know, Kasha Elai Predaschem. Everybody knows when two people who love each other have to separate for a period of time. When someone has to go, the husband has to go on a business trip, Lamashal, and his wife won't see him for a few weeks. So the moment before the Preda, the moment before leaving, the day before leaving, those final moments, like Rabbi Yossel's good friend, that was so hard to see Rabbi Yossel leave, he had to buy a refundable ticket to the airport just to walk him through security so he could sit by the gate. Because Kasha Elai Predaschem, at the final moments when a person is departing, a tremendous love starts to reveal itself. And therefore, b'siyat d'shmaya, that we're now in this place of this final period of time, in this Torah, you have the opportunity to really grab onto something big in this Torah. With Hashem's help, we'll really, really allow the medicine and the healing to happen through this learning. Because the Torah is healing. The Torah heals us. And Befrat, Rabbi Nachman said about himself that he's a healer. That this is specifically Torah of healing. And the end of days, which we're in now, the Ikvus of the Mashiach, the world needs so much healing. So we're in the world of healing. So I want to go into the Torah, my friends. And I want to see, and we welcome our friends around the world. Please feel free if there's questions. We'll hope what we can do to answer the Siyat Dishmaya. So we're in this Torah. Yes? Oh, sure. Open the flow. We're already holding in the Shehakol. I want to go a little bit into Ois Gimel, which speaks about the secret. So in this edition, and of course we have such a Hakaras Hatov to BRI, to Chaim and the Breslov Research Institute, who has done so much to provide English-speaking audience with the Torah's Reb Nachman. Of course, Reb Moti, Latal, the Torah, and Reb Nachman, Kol Torah's Chaim, that are just sharing this healing light with the world. So in the English edition, it's on page 221. 221. And it begins with the 3 there. And even though we've seen this, I want to go back into this section. This section is all about secrets. Understand the secrets. Because this was one of the last Torahs that Reb Nachman said, if not the last. And we have a Masorah that this Torah was the last will and testimony of Reb Nachman. Which means also, the end of a person's life is also a type of leaving. It's also a type of separating. So at the end of a person's life, it's known that the last will and testimony of a person, the last kind of thing that a person is speaking about at the end of their life, we should all live until 120 years, Siyat Dishmaya. The last thing that a person is speaking about at the end of their life, that all the energy of the person, all of the koiches of a person, everything comes together and they give you the entire package of them. That a lot of energy comes into a person, especially if they're giving a final message. That's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the end of his life, he revealed all the great secrets of Lag BaOmer, of the Idra, because all the powers of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were unifying at that final moment, and he was delivering this message to the students. So too here in this Torah, this is Reb Nachman's final message. And there's a big part of this Torah which has to do with a secret. This side. This secret. It's a theme in the Torah. And one of the ways to understand Likutei is understanding that Reb Nachman didn't put anything into a Torah that's superfluous. Everything here was a necessary part of the Torah. And there's a technology of starting to decode the entire storyline of what's happening. That every part was essential, was a major topic in the Torah. And the Sod is a big part of this Torah. Sod means a secret. Yeah.
I wanted to say something that I just recently learned about my grandfather. I heard a story about him that ties into what you just said. It's so interesting. You said that right before a person passes, they have a ton of energy, or they have this burst of energy, right? So I was at my aunt's, my father's sister, and she was telling a story about her father, and he wasn't doing well the last week before he passed, and he was like, he wasn't talking, he had really no energy, he wasn't really awake much. And then she said, right before he passed, he was lying down in his bed right before he passed, this burst of energy just popped up, like sitting up in his bed, and his last words were, Tov lemud lemudatenu, and then he passed right after, which was like just so crazy.
Then at that final moment,
and then he passed that night. Those were his last words. Which means, sorry, I don't know if you guys know what it means. It means it's good to die for your country. He was referencing Israel.
Before a person separates, if you will, a lot of energy comes in. So this is right before Reb Nachman was separated. And therefore there's a very powerful energy coming through the Torah. And one of the main energies, thank you, Mayor, for sharing, was this idea of a secret. And tomorrow I want to go on to another part of the Torah. And you always have to see in Likutei how every piece is working together. That's one of the energies about how to learn Likutei. I'm just a cotton in this. I barely understand anything at all. But so I've heard from those that really know Likutei is that every piece in the Torah is essential and they're all working together. And you want to see everything as they're moving in tandem working together, and to be able to see how did this piece relate to this piece, and you put the whole storyline together, and then you go to a deeper level of the storyline. So let's look at Gimel. Al Yedeze, through this. Now what is this thing that he's talking about? Through this. Well, the beginning of the Torah had to do with something called Emunas Chacham. Through this thing called Emunas Chacham. Now what does Emunas Chacham mean? On a simple level. Believing in the authority of the rabbis. And God forbid if a person does not do that, he makes what's called a Rebbe She'eina Hagam. He starts giving authority to unhealthy leadership, to that which would go against the city of God. That creates all sorts of problems. So the simple level is that I understand that I give authority to Moshe Rabbeinu, which is, by the way, one of the 13 principles of the Rambam. I give authority to Rav Moshe Feinstein. I give authority to the Baba Sali. I give authority to the Rosh Shiva. I give authority to Rabbi Shimon Yochai. And if, God forbid, I didn't do so, I didn't give respect to the Lelever Rebbe, that's not good. And it leads to all sorts of challenges, and Asharim Sruchim, and Mishpat Ma'ukal, crooked thinking. Because you know the Baba Sali is straight. You know that if you align with the Baba Sali, you're going in a good direction in life. So that's the simple level of the Torah. But then we took that level deeper and we said it doesn't just mean giving authority to those that are worthy of authority. Because Reb Nachman taught us about believing in your own chachma, believing in yourself. Wait a second. It seems like a stira. It seems like a contradiction. If I give authority to the Baba Sali, am I not saying that, who am I? I'm giving authority to the Baba Sali. He knows the truth. Because I don't really know. I know enough to say that he knows. But then Reb Nachman says, no, you have to also believe in your own chachma, in your chidushei Torah, in your ksav yadeinu, your own ksav, believing in yourself. So this idea of emunas chacham has to be something deeper than only giving authority to the Baba Sali, l'mashal. It has to be that there's something in me called a chacham, in me called a tzaddik, that I have to start believing in myself, while at the same time believing in the Baba Sali. So the whole Torah became a deeper movement that it's happening in me now. Deeper than that, we also explained that what does it mean, emunas chachamim? Seemingly, those two terms are a contradiction. Because chachma is something that you know. If I deliver a piece of chachma to you, let's say 1 + 1 is 2. A piece of chachma. So you understand that. Do you need to let me believe in that? You know what I'm saying? Wait a second. Emunah is something that I've got to get to. It's like I'm almost looking upwards at the thing. Whereas chachma is something that I got. So even emunah, if he's a chacham, what do I need to have emunah in him? And if he's not a chacham, then I just end of the story. What's emunas chachamim? It looks like a stir minei obey. It looks like there's something, this interplay in emunas chachamim, that there's something that's beyond. That's where emunah comes in. But there's also something in chachma that I'm relating to. So all of a sudden, this went from more than just I bestow authority to the Baba Sali, which it's also that layer. but it's something in me, this energy, this feeling state, this meditative state of there's things that are beyond me and there's things that I relate to, and I could be in that feeling at the same time. I could relate to things that are beyond, and I could relate to things that I know, but at the same time I know that there's things that are beyond about that thing that I know. Yosel?
Like our minds are finite vessels, and Hashem is infinite. So when it comes to like connecting to godly wisdom, it's not through chokhmah. You need to have some emunah to get past like what your capacity of knowledge in order to connect to higher godly wisdom.
That's right. So we have this kind of interplay here. That Rav Nachman was taking us into a world of there has to be things that you know, but there has to be things that are also I don't know. So then in number 3, in Ois Gimel, Rav Nachman starts speaking about a secret. And I think we're going to see that this is actually part of the whole secret that he's talking about, is relating to life in a way that there are things that I know, and there at the same time are things that I don't know. And I'm acknowledging that there are things bigger than me. And I'm okay with that. I'm humble enough to know that there are things that are bigger, but I also believe in myself to know that there are things that I can know. So let's just read the words of Ois Gimel, because there's an energy here in Ois Gimel that's like very fascinating. Va'al yedei zeh. And zeh means not having emunas chacham. This interplay. Nilkach mimenu chochmas taluche galgali harakiyah. Something fascinating happens. Rav Nachman introduces us that we lose the ability of understanding how the constellations work. How all the orbits of the world work. Can I use that for a second, Dylan? We start losing the awareness of how this works. That looks like a Kabbalistic diagram, because it is. We start misunderstanding this. And we spoke about this in the past. This is the taluche galgali harakiyah. We lose the ability of understanding, on the simple level, the astronomy of how the world works and the orbits of the constellations. Thank you. But we also stop understanding the astrology, which is really the inner meaning of what it means that the constellations are moving and Saturn is rising and all of these inyonim, all of these topics, which is a big thing by us. But we lose touch with these points. On a simple level, we lose touch with our ability of being able to create the calendar through our understanding of the constellations. Because the way that the ideal state of the Jewish people is that we are creating the calendar through us being Mekadesh, the new moon. And when we say Mekudesh, when we utter those words that the new moon has been seen, we now are determining that the new month has begun. And if we do not have testimony that can come to Bezin and say that we saw the new moon, then it will not be that day. And it will change Pesach, it will change Yom Kippur, it will change Rosh Hashanah. So we lost some of this through losing this thing called Emunas Chacham. Now, just follow along here. Leda, also understanding, Kol hishtanus v'asidus haboim al yedei galgali harakia v'nimsa lahem. Now this is fascinating, because Rav Nachman's pointing out, if you can really understand the constellations, you start understanding the future. The constellations have a certain secret to them that's like a crystal ball. There's something about, and I'm sure many horoscope people will tell you that they can predict the future. through the constellation. That's essentially what they're trying to do. Now, is that true that you can understand the future? The answer is yes. But only if you understand what's going on. Meaning, there's a technology in understanding the Galgali Harakia, understanding how the constellations work, that would let you know the future. They would let you know how humanity is going to move forward, if you can understand it. If you don't understand it, then you can't. But is it in that realm of understanding the future from the Galgali Harakia? The answer is yes. Now, through us losing the Emunas Chachamim, we lose the ability to see into the future. So, look what Rav does. In the beginning, this Chachma, this wisdom, was something that was bestowed to Moshe Rabbeinu, was bestowed at Mount Sinai, that we would know how to see the future through understanding the constellations. This was something that was given over to the Jewish nation. And the Torah gives testimony to this. Like the Torah says, Ki hi chachmoschem ubinaschem le'enei olamim. For this is your chachma, chachmaschem, yours, ubinaschem, and your understanding, le'enei ho'amim, to the eyes of the world. Meaning something is going to be given special to the nation of Israel at Mount Sinai. Something was given over, and the nations of the world will see that something was given over to the Jewish people. And we always say that the Jewish people, this that we stood at Mount Sinai, does not mean better. This that we stood at Mount Sinai means responsibility. We're responsible for humanity. We're responsible to help humanity go in a good direction. And if we're not, oy vavoy, that's not good. And therefore we take responsibility that we have a big job to do. So this Chachma, and what is this Chachma talking about? Essentially being able to understand how all of the constellations are moving, and through that understanding the future. And what we're going to be learning is how we could shape the future. Because the understanding of it is actually shaping of it, of creating destiny for humanity through understanding this. But if God forbid we lose the Emunas Chachamim, which is more than just giving authority to the Baba Sala, it's also that. Then we lose touch with this. And says the Gemara on this verse, V'dirshu Rabbi Seinu zal ezu chachma ubina shehi le'enei olamim. What is this chachma that the nations of the world see that we have? Heviyomer zeh chishuv tekufus hamazalos. This is understanding all the constellations, the mazal, understanding the months, understanding all the secrets about seeing into the future. Now, this is the part that I really wanted to get to today. Ki yesh b'zeh seichel. There's a certain seichel, there's a certain understanding of this topic that we're talking about right now. She yishar hasoyd etzleinu. There's a certain seichel, there's a certain understanding that this concept that we're talking about all the constellations and how they allow us to see into the future, that has a secret to it. And if you have this particular understanding of the topic we're talking about, then what will happen is that this topic called the constellations has the simple meaning of the topic, like Copernicus and Galileo, about an unbelievable ability of understanding how the constellations are moving, the mathematics of how they're working. But there's also a secret to it. So there's a certain seichel, the Rebbe here says, that the secret you could keep, but you'll lose the simple meaning of it. The simple meaning will be lost from you, but the secret will stay by you. Okay, so whatever this thing called the constellations, right now it looks like there's two parts to it. We said we're going to lose it. But there's a seichel, if you have this particular understanding of everything we're talking about now, you'll hold on to the secret part of it, and the non-secret part of it will go, and be given over. So did we give over the secret? It appears if you have a certain understanding of the topic we're talking about, you're able to understand how to keep the secret by you, and that the simple meaning of it will be given over to Copernicus. So says the Rebbe, Afal Pi. So I'm trying to get to this place here where we're like, what is really this? What's happening here? Afal Pi shemoidin lahem hachachma. Even though we're going to say over what this chachma is. Remember, there's a chachma. It's called how to understand all the constellations. Well, by the way, there's an understanding in this giant topic of everything we just looked at, that picture. If you understand it well, you'll be able to keep the secret by you, and the simple meaning of it will be given over to the world. Because we have to say over this chachma. Ki bevadet tzarich lohidim lahem hachachma. Certainly we have to tell the world this chachma. Why do we have to do that? Kedei sheyedu mechachmaseinu. Now that's interesting. Why does the world need to know this chachma of how the constellations work? Because they have to know that we have this big understanding of it. Which sounds like it's something very interesting. It's important that the nations of the world should see that the Jewish nation has this very deep understanding of how the constellations work. So hold on, did we give over the whole secret? It says they have to know it, so they know the secret.
They know there is a secret.
So it says there's a seichel that you can keep the secret by you, and the simple meaning they'll understand. And certainly we have to tell this to them, because they need to know. So hold on, but did they know the secret?
They can't have access to it because we have a special essence that even if they do everything like us, in terms of method to analyze the stars and the constellations, they won't be able to really access to the true knowledge because they don't have, I would say, the essence we do the work. I mean, we chose God, we control them, so it gave us like a special essence that's...
So do they know the secret? No. If the whole point here is for us that they should know that we have something special. So how do they know it if they don't know it? So then do they really know it? They know it or they don't know it? You hear what I'm trying to play with here? We have to give it over because they have to know that the Jewish nation has something special to give to the world. Like it says in the Pasuk, they have to see that we have something special. But if they don't know what the thing is, then how do they know it's something special? And there's a certain seichel where they know it, but the secret part of it they don't quite understand. So then do they really know? So let's just see a little bit further, because you see that like there's a movement here in the Torah where there's like a couple moves that I want to just give you all the moves, and then you'll feel like there's something happening here in the Torah. And remember, like we said in the beginning, everything in Likutei Moharan, everything is a main thing. So this has to also be talking about Emunus Chacham. This has to also be talking about Ksav Yadeinu. There's something here in the Torah. There's many topics we went into in the Torah. Ashanim Sruchim, Moisras.
You don't even know the scientific stacks of code to get the value out of code. So you don't even know the molecular
Is that the
structure.
secret? Is that the secret of gold? So just let's see a couple more lines here, because there's this movement here in the Torah which is very touching. Ki bavad tzarich lo yidil lahem hachachma. Certainly we have to make this chachma known. Kadei sheyedu mechachma seinu. She'anu yodim hachachma zu. They know that we know this chachma. Kamay shekosev. Ki hi chachmaschem ubinaschem le'enei oam. They have to know it's for the eyes of the world to see that the Jewish nation is something special, that we're here to help. We're here to help build a healthy future for humanity. So says the Rebbe, Vim came. Lahem. If we then have to tell them over, ain't a side, it's not a secret. Because we told it. But wait a second. I thought you just said there's a seichel that keeps the side here and gives over the simple mathematics to Galileo. And Galileo will know great understandings of how the constellations work, but the secret will stay Etzleinu. But now we're saying, lahem, we're giving it over. Ain't a sight, it's not a sight. Ki haloi gam hem yodim. If they also know, it's not a secret. So wait a second. There's like a few moves already in this Torah. There's a certain seichel that keeps the side by Etzleinu, but then makes known something not the side, the simple pshat, the simple meaning of all the constellations. And the Rebbe says, because we have to say it over. Because the Torah says that they have to see that, wow, the nation of Israel has something special. Well, wait a second. If we said it over, it's not a soid. But I thought we kept the soid. So did we say over the soid or we didn't say over the soid? We said it, and therefore it's not a soid. So is it a soid? It's not a soid. Yesh b'zeh seichel. But there's a certain understanding of everything we're talking about right now. If a little bit we're kind of in this inyan, that we could say the chachma over, afal pikein, but nevertheless, yishar as-soid etzleinu. But the soid of it somehow stays by us. Hold on, so we're back to the fact we didn't say the soid? I thought we said the soid. Did we say the soid or not? We have to, because they have to know the chachma. No, there's a seichel that lets you say it over, so much so that they know we have something, but you didn't be moist of the side, because if you're moist of the side, then it's not a side. But then how do they know? So we gave the side or not? And then look at this. V'zeh bechines, and this move is beyond. Look at this move. Everything with Rabbi is like a move. He like makes these power moves. This is a power move right now. V'zeh bechines ki hi chachmasem ubinaschem lo einei ho'am. This is exactly what it means, that this will be your chachma and your bina, le'einei ho'amim, for the eyes of the world, le'einei ho'amim daike, the eyes of the world, the hainim, shehirak le'einei ho'amim, it's only the eyes of the world, meaning, b'shah shemaydian lahem, when we say it. Hold on, so it looks like we're saying it. The time that we say it, did we say the side now? V'tekef acher kach, as soon as we say it, eine yoidin klal. That move, that line, is mind-boggling. Because it looks like we said the whole thing, but then they don't know it. So then, like we said, and it disappeared. Now remember, this is all happening inside of you and I. Because we already said that the emunus chachma is that me believing in the Baba Sali, but me also believing in the chachmi law, me believing in my own self. So, and in myself is also the Shamas Gedolos, is also the Rebbe Shein Hagen. It's happening in me. So, first of all, did we say the side? It looks like you say it. In the end, you say it. But then it just disappears. Rak yoidim she'asoyd etzleinu. Ki ein anu moidin lahem zoysa chachma etzim. Hold on. Now you didn't say the side. You didn't say the etzim of it. She'yisoyd ha'ibur, which is the whole side of ibur. Ibur neshamas, making the months, adding on an extra month of Adar. Rak sheyesh b'zeh seichel She'achol laharoi zois ha'chochma leineim levad, leman sheyedu shezois ha'chochma hi etzleinu, in order that they know that the nation of Israel has something special. Aval etzem soid ha'chochma nishar etzleinu. And then it disappears. You hear like there's an interplay here that itself seems like a secret. Like, what is given over? Remember, you have to learn a pasuk. Ki hi chachmascha binaschem la'enei oam. And there's a Gemara on that. So what is the taich in the pasuk? Yes, I feel like Dan's like going into the chachma a little bit.
I see two possibilities. Of course, it's highly possible that I'm wrong, but I see two possibilities. The first one is that I'm the president of Zimbabwe, you're the president of America, you give me the secret to create a nuclear bomb. I don't have the scientists to build this nuclear bomb, so it's not the fact that you're giving the sod, it's more me, I don't know the process to have access to the sod, so I know that there is a sod, but I don't really know it. So that's the first option that I see.
I mean, the president gave the side, so did he really give it to you if you can't do it? Does he even understand it? He understands how to do it?
Yeah, that's perhaps like the nations don't have the process to really access the sod, so they know there is a sod, but they don't understand the true essence.
Okay, you're onto something big here.
Or I see that perhaps like you give the sod, the nations could have access to it, but just God goes in the middle and I don't erase the possibility for the nation to have access to it, or plays in a way that you give it, but for sure still I won't have access to it because like God is like, no, the nations can't have access to it fully, so I'm going to block their intellectual process in a certain way. See those?
Yes. I want to just deepen this, because you're moving in a good direction. Is that how is this also happening inside of me? This also has to be happening in me. So what part of me knows a side? And what part of me is, so to speak, trying to get this side, and as soon as I got it, I lose it. This has to be in me as well. This is not just something on external. This is a technology in me. And remember, Rav Nachman's bringing all this to get me to a practical life where this has to also be something that brings me to light. Because the whole Torah began and not having that, all these bad things happen, like this. But if I have it, I could bring mishpat to or. It gets me to this place called or. And the Rebbe is going to end the whole Torah with or again. We're going to be back into or. Back into light. So where is this happening inside of me? Yeah, Yossel.
So with the Munas Chachamim, we're able to penetrate past this veil of Chokhmah, Stam, like in terms of, like I was saying earlier, as far as like we only have like a limited capacity for knowledge. So like the nations of the world, they have like the most sophisticated understandings of like the observable universe. But as far as getting past like what they could observe, we have sort of the Emunas Chachamim to get past that veil of the observable universe to like penetrate into like the spiritual world and see like the forces behind the veil.
The whole world can have a relationship with God. The whole world could have a relationship with the higher realms.
For sure, no, I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that we have this Masorah of having a tradition with the Munas Chachamim that allows us to really understand how to do it.
So why can't the person also have a Munas Chacham? They say, I believe in Moshe Rabbeinu. I believe in the Torah Moshe Rabbeinu. The person comes and says, I accept all the 13 principles of the Rambam.
So I was going to ask, as far as that goes, there is like there being like the science and then like this more spiritual esoteric understanding.
Yes.
There was a question asked earlier about gold, about how like you don't have to know like the mechanics and function of gold to like get utility out of it. There's like a tradition amongst the nations of like alchemy, where it's like there's like chemistry, which is like part of the observable universe. Then there's like alchemy, which is like the more spiritual, esoteric like tradition. It's like more mystical that is like tied together with chemistry, the same way like astronomy and astrology have like this relationship.
It's very
I was
beautiful.
curious, do we have any shaykhs to like alchemy, or is that something more left to the nations of the world?
We have shaykhs to it. We have shaykhs to it. Ramoti said something very beautiful to me, and I want to build on his idea because he like unlocked the door. Sometimes in Likutei what happens is that you're learning with somebody and they'll say something to you and it like unlocks something, and then all of a sudden a whole new pathway in the Torah opens up. So a new pathway in this Torah opened up for me. And it was also based on something else that somebody told me when I was washing, my hands by the mikveh, by Vishnitz, and I saw another Yid who was learning the Torah, and I said, like, where are you holding the Torah? They were just like washing our hands. And part of the whole mission of the project is that this becomes like Daf Yomi, is that wherever a Yid is, they could be speaking in the, where are you holding Samach Aleph? And this one says, I'm holding Ksav Yadeinu, and Mamish, Ksav Yadeinu. And this one says, like, I'm holding the Soid Ibr, and Mamish in the Soid. Another one says, I'm holding my Chodi Reb Shimon. We're going to see at the end of the Torah, Ava. So first, the Yid who was standing by the mikveh, by the hand washing station. So he's been really thinking about this idea. When I see him a lot, he's like holding in this idea. And it's something we spoke about in the beginning, which is, remember we said how Emunas Chachamim is not only looking outwards, we said it's looking inwards, because the Nachman speaks about believing in yourself. We said that seemingly that's a contradiction, but it can't be. And we also said that this Torah is all about balance. It's all about finding a mishpat, which is not to the left, not to the right, but finding a middle path. So he said like this, if you take Emunas Chachamim too far, that's not a good thing. Meaning I'm simple. I have nothing, I'm a nobody, I'm nothing, I just follow the leader. That's not what it's about. But at the same time, if you take yourself too seriously, I know everything. That's like what they call Zokin Mamre. I'm like Torsha B'chsav. And he becomes like a rebel. He's not able to hear anybody else. That's also a problem. So there has to be this interplay of there's things that I know, I do believe in myself. But at the same time, I'm always open to something higher. I'm always giving smicha to the chacham. I'm always open to a higher world. And therefore I know the interplay of there's things that I know and there's things that I don't know, which itself is in the words of Emunas Chacham. Because Emunah is something that I don't know. I'm going to a beyond place. And Chachma is something that I know. So even in those words, there's like this movement. There's almost a meditation happening, a feeling state. There's things that I know and there's things that I don't know. So then Ramoti said something very moving. We'll end with this idea. You'll think about it for the next day. And I hope the rest of your life. He said, the side that we're talking about, we see there's two parts to it. There's the simple meaning of it, and then there's the side of it. So the Naaman says that there's a certain seichel that the side stays a side. We're talking about the side staying a side, we mean it's up by Chochmah Ilah. What's it being given over? It's being given over la'einei amen, which means a person that says, I can understand the soul. I understood it. I wrote a PhD on it. I figured the whole side out. I could tie it in a nice bow. I figured the whole thing out. So we said, as soon as you give it over, and they feel like they understood it, they wrote a PhD paper on it, Rav says, Teikaf achakach eina yoidin klal. It goes away. As soon as you think that you figured out, you're some, mikubal, and you walk around, I know God. You don't know anything. That's the Rebbe Sheina Hagen. As soon as he thinks he figured the whole thing out, so now immediately he lost the whole thing. Meaning you even told it to him. You wrote a Kabbalah book and it says everything. And he wrote a PhD and he says, I figured out, he walks around, I know the soul. You don't know anything. As soon, and your mama gave it to him. He actually said the soul. But the way that we're talking about ourselves, that if I relate to the soul in a way like I figured the whole thing out, in a second you lose the whole soul. Because the soid is being able to know that there's always a higher place that I don't know. But at the same time, it's it has to be given over to the world. They have to know about it. But at the same time, we have to be humble enough to know that there's a higher level. And we're going to see this is part of going back into the Evan Shasiyah, is knowing that there's always going to be a higher place of his kalalas, of becoming more unified in the Soid. And as high as we think we've gotten, there's always going to be something that we don't know. And that's why this part of the whole Torah is like this movement. The Soid is that there's things that you'll know, but then there's things that you'll always not know, and you're able to be in that state of knowing and not knowing. Rav Shlomo, one time I heard, said a very nice thing. He was talking about two couples. He was saying, this first couple, he was speaking to the husband, and the husband, he said, how well do you know your wife? He's like, I know everything about my wife. Okay, and he was speaking to another husband. He said, you know your wife? He's like, my wife. You know how deep she is? You know how beyond? I know some things. Obviously I know a few things. But who she is such a secret. She's so deep. So Rav Shlomo said, which person do you think has a better marriage? So you might say, the guy that knows his wife totally. What do you mean? The guy knows everything about her. He said, no, that person, you think you understand who she is? You already lost the whole thing. Through thinking you know who she is, you have no idea who she is. Because she's a side. She's beyond. And he says he was learning this from when the angels came to Avram Avinu. And they said to Avram Avinu, Ay Sarah Ishtecha, where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, my wife, Sarah? Hine ba'oil, she's in the tent. Which means, I don't even know it. She's like, there's things about her that are so hiding from me, that are so beyond. Of course I know Sarah, I know my wife, but I don't know the side of her. There's things about her that are so beyond. And here there's a side here, there's things that I know, and things that I don't know. But as soon as I wrap it up in a bow and put it in a box, I lose the whole side immediately. So hold on to this side, but don't, box it in. We should be Zaycha Mamish. And I hope this will open up, because remember, if this is happening in the Torah, this is happening in every single part of the Torah. Every single part of the Torah is also, and Rosh Hashanah is going to be this. We're going to start tomorrow with Rosh Hashanah. It's all going to be with this side. We should be Zaycha Mamish to have Emunas Chachamim. We should be Zaycha Mamish to connect to all the tzaddikim amitim, to believe in the Chacham in ourselves, to believe in the Emunas Chacham, the Chacham Ilah. We should be Zaycha Mamish to be mamtik all the dinim. That Rosh Hashanah should be a day of tremendous iskalus and the tzaddikei emes, and to go all the way up to the Chacham Ilah and the Evan Shasiyah. We should be Zaycha that this mamish, the Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'meher of Yameinu, Amen ve'Amen.
Amen.
Oh Yahu Asheinu, Magdo Yalkeinu, Manayim Goralei, Halalei, Yahu Asheinu, Magdo Yalkeinu, Manayim Goralei, Yalalei, Shachrif! Shkoyach, my dear friends.